It was past midnight when the calls started flooding in. A parking lot, a crowd of women, voices raised. Then, gunshots. By the time anyone could process what had just happened, a young woman was already being rushed to the hospital in the back seat of a private car. Her body going limp, her children at home, completely unaware that their mother would never come back. The Sunnyside neighborhood of southeast Houston had seen its share of trouble. But what unfolded at the Wesley Square apartments in the early hours of February 8, 2026, left even seasoned investigators shaken. Because Asia Stewart wasn't there to start anything. She wasn't there to fight. She had just come off a 16-hour shift. She was exhausted. She was a mother. She was supposed to be home, but her sister needed her. And Asia, the kind of woman who believed in showing up for the people she loved, couldn't stay away. She walked into that parking lot trying to keep the peace. She never walked back out. And what investigators would piece together in the hours and days that followed revealed a story that was far more chilling than a single moment of violence. This had been building for days.
An arrest has been made in the fatal shooting of a mother of 4 at an apartment complex in Sunnyside. 25-year-old Deja Wilmore is in custody, charged with the murder of Asia Stewart. Sherman DeSalle has been following this, and he is joining us live from HPD headquarters with an exclusive interview with the victim's father, who's telling us he wishes a calmer path had been taken before the shooting. Sherman.
Yeah, good evening, Caroline. So we did get a hold of some court documents. They reveal that the violence came from actually a multi-day fight involving several women, and witnesses say that Asia Stewart was not involved in this fight. She only went there to de-escalate the situation because it involved her sister.
Welcome to Real True Crime 24/7. May you and your family stay safe wherever you are. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, because we bring you the parts the media never reported. Asia Stewart was 26 years old, and if you had met her on the street or scrolled past her on social media, what you would have seen was a woman who was completely devoted to the life she was building. She had 4 children, ages 11, 8, 6, and 3. 4 kids who called her mom. 4 kids who depended on her for everything, and she showed up for them every single day. She worked as a security guard, long shifts, demanding hours, the kind of job that doesn't leave much room for rest. But Asia didn't complain. She clocked in, did the work, and went home to her babies. Her father, Carlton Stewart, raised her with a set of values that guided everything she did. He taught her to talk through conflict, to think before she acted, to choose peace over pride. And Asia listened. She once posted something that stopped people in their tracks. A simple sentence that said everything about who she was, building my own family by any means necessary. That was her mission, her purpose, her reason for getting up every morning. She was the kind of person who got emotional when she talked to her kids. Not out of weakness, but because she meant every single word she said to them. She wanted them to grow up knowing that they were loved. That family was everything.
Are you a girl? Listen. Let me wipe my face. I had to have surgery, y'all. That's how I was able to have kids. So that's why I be telling y'all I want y'all to be careful, all right? For real. This is just the affirmation for in the morning time for y'all to know, all right? I want y'all to be smart, all right? Y'all understand? Okay, keep being smart. 'Cause I was born a man and it took me a little minute to get to where I'm at today, all right? All right, y'all?
To look at Asia Stewart's life from the outside, you would have seen someone who was doing it. Against the odds, without complaint, doing it. But the world she lived in had dangers that no amount of love could fully protect against. And on a February night in Houston, those dangers would come for her when she least expected it. The Wesley Square apartments sit in the Sunnyside area of southeast Houston, a working-class neighborhood where people know each other's names and everyone's business tends to travel fast. It's a community of tight-knit connections, family ties, old friendships, old grudges. Asia didn't live there, but people she loved did. Her sister lived there. And for the past several days, something had been brewing at Wesley Square. A tension between a group of women that had been simmering since February 5th, 3 full days before the night that would change everything. Words had been exchanged. Old conflicts had resurfaced, and on the night of February 7th, heading into the early hours of February 8th, that tension finally boiled over. The parking lot became a stage, and the people gathered there had no idea that one of them had already decided how the night was going to end. No one in that parking lot could have imagined that a woman who came to make peace would leave in the back of a car, fighting for her life. February 8th, 2026. Asia had just finished a 16-hour shift. 16 hours. That's the kind of day that drains you down to nothing. Your feet ache, your mind is foggy. All you want is your bed, your children, the quiet of home. But then her phone rang. Or maybe it was a text, a frantic message. Her sister was caught up in something at Wesley Square. The fighting that had been going on for days, it was escalating again. Carlton Stewart, Asia's father, would later say something that is almost impossible to hear without your heart breaking. He said he could hear his voice in her head that night. The lessons he'd taught her about talking through conflict, about stopping and thinking before acting. He believed she heard him. But Asia also heard something else. She heard her sister needing her, and that was enough.
Everything. Yeah, I definitely taught a conflict resolution. Definitely. I'm big on conflict resolution, and I preach to Asia all the time about talking. Stop, think, then go with what you need to do. I know in my heart of hearts that even though she came to help her sister and talk to get the situation resolved, her mind, my voice was there telling her she needed to be home. But for the love of her sister, love of her sibling, which everybody's guilty of that, she came. Sure. She came, but she didn't come with no violence. Asia had worked a 16-hour shift previously.
She got in her car and drove to Wesley Square. Just after midnight, she pulled up to an apartment complex she didn't call home, to a situation that wasn't hers to carry, because that's who Asia Stewart was. What she found when she got there was chaos. A large group of women in the parking lot. Voices raised, bodies already in motion. The kind of scene that tells you immediately, this is already out of hand. Asia stepped in, not to fight, to stop it. At approximately 12:45 in the morning, Houston Police Department officers received a call about a shooting at the 7400 block of Calhoun Road. When they arrived, they found something unusual. The victim was already gone. Someone, a person in the crowd, someone who knew Asia, had loaded her into a private vehicle and driven her to Ben Taub Hospital themselves. There was no time to wait for an ambulance. The situation was that dire. At the hospital, doctors fought to save her. They couldn't. Asia Stewart, 26 years old, mother of 4, security guard, a woman who had just worked 16 hours straight, was pronounced dead. Back at the crime scene, HPD detectives began working the lot. What they found told a story of absolute chaos. 9mm shell casings on the pavement, torn clothing scattered across the ground, strands of hair, evidence of hands grabbing, bodies struggling, a brawl that had gotten completely out of control. But the most important thing investigators found was the witnesses. People who had been standing right there. People who saw everything. And what they had to say changed the entire direction of the investigation. HPD Homicide Division detectives A. Rodriguez and M. Cater took the lead. They had a victim, they had a crime scene, and they had a parking lot full of people who were, slowly and carefully, starting to talk. The first picture that began to form was this. The conflict at Wesley Square hadn't started that night. It had been going for days. Since February 5th, 3 days earlier, there had been a series of escalating physical altercations between a group of women connected to the complex. Old drama, unresolved tension, the kind of thing that festers when nobody steps in to cool it down. Asia wasn't part of that drama. She was an outsider to it. She only came because her sister was caught in the middle. But someone else, at that complex, someone who had been at the center of the conflict all along, had come prepared for something more serious than a fistfight. Witnesses began telling detectives about a woman they'd seen in the crowd. A woman who'd been seen with a gun in her waistband. A woman who at some point during the chaos had made a threat that nobody took seriously enough. She had said, out loud in front of witnesses, that she would shoot anyone who touched her friend. The detectives listened carefully, and then they started building their case. Her name was Dasha Wilmore, 25 years old. She was known to multiple people at the Wesley Square apartments. She wasn't a stranger to the situation. She was embedded in it. According to witnesses and charging documents, Wilmore had been present throughout the escalating conflict. She wasn't a passive bystander. She was in the thick of it. On the night Asia arrived, a fight broke out between two other women. In the middle of that fight, Wilmore moved toward Asia. Investigators describe it as bucking at her, a confrontational move, a challenge. Asia, who had come to stop the fighting, found herself suddenly in a physical struggle with Wilmore. Witnesses say Asia swung at Wilmore during the struggle. What happened next happened fast. Too fast. Wilmore reached to her waistband, the same waistband where witnesses had already seen the gun, and pulled out a firearm. At close range, point blank. She fired once. The bullet struck Asia in the abdomen. Asia collapsed, and Dasha Wilmore disappeared into the night. With Asia pronounced dead at Bentob and Wilmore gone, HPD issued a murder charge against her in the 178th Criminal District Court and released her information to the public. The case got immediate attention. Local news outlets, ABC 13, Fox 26, picked it up fast. Dasha Wilmore was named, her previous booking photo was released, and the city of Houston was watching. Detectives Rodriguez and Cater had already begun piecing together the full timeline. Witness statements, shell casing evidence, the location of the gun in Wilmore's waistband, the threat she'd made before the shooting. Every piece pointed in one direction, and then, just days after the killing, in the early hours of Wednesday, February 11th, Houston police found Dasha Wilmore. She was taken into custody. No prolonged manhunt, no crossing state lines. She was in Houston, and now she was in handcuffs. Here is what the investigation ultimately concluded. Dasha Wilmore did not stumble into a situation she couldn't handle. She arrived at that parking lot on the night of February 8th, already armed, already tense, already threatening. The ongoing dispute at Wesley Square had been building since February 5th. Wilmore was connected to it. She had a firearm. She had made a direct threat to use it. When Asia Stewart arrived, exhausted from a 16-hour shift, there only because her sister was in trouble, she walked into the crosshairs of something she had nothing to do with. During the melee, Wilmore turned on Asia. Whether it was a personal grievance or simply the chaos of the moment, investigators believe the physical confrontation between the two women gave Wilmore the pretext she'd been looking for. Asia swung at her. Wilmore drew her gun. One shot, one life ended, and 4 children went to sleep not knowing that when they woke up, their mother was never coming home. When Dasha Wilmore was taken into custody on February 11th, she was transported to Harris County Jail. She was booked and charged with murder in the first degree. Her case was filed in the 178th Criminal District Court of Harris County, Texas. The arrest was swift, just 3 days after the killing. Detectives hadn't needed to search far. The witnesses were cooperative. The evidence was clear. Wilmore offered no dramatic confrontation at the time of her arrest. No standoff. She was found and taken in. But the damage was already done. Asia Stewart was already gone, and a family was already shattered. As of the time of this video, Dasha Wilmore remains held in Harris County Jail as legal proceedings continue. The charge is murder, a first-degree felony in the state of Texas. Prosecutors have the charging documents, they have the witness statements, they have the physical evidence recovered from the scene, shell casings, torn clothing, the aftermath of a brawl that ended in a killing. They have the testimony of people who saw Wilmore with a gun, who heard her make threats, who watched the confrontation unfold. The defense will have their say. They will present their arguments. The legal process will take its course. But one thing cannot be argued away. A young mother of 4 came to a parking lot to help the people she loved and was shot to death. Justice for Asia's family begins with accountability. In the days after Asia's death, her father, Carlton Stewart, became the family's voice. He confirmed what everyone who knew Asia already understood. She wasn't there to fight. She was there because family came first. Always. He addressed Dasha Wilmore directly during a court appearance, and what he said was not rage. It was grief. "I'm not mad at you," he said. "I'm more hurt at you." Those words stopped people cold, because in them was something rare. A father who had every right to be consumed by anger, choosing instead to speak from the deepest, most honest part of his pain. He also spoke about something broader, about the lack of conflict resolution skills he sees in the world, about how he spent years teaching Asia to talk through problems, to stop and think, to choose her response carefully. And yet, the world around her didn't operate by those same rules. She did everything right, and it still wasn't enough to save her. Asia's 4 children, 11, 8, 6, and 3, are now without their mother. They will grow up without the woman who posted about building her family by any means necessary, without the woman who cried when she spoke to them because she meant every word, without the woman who, after 16 hours on her feet, still got in her car for her sister. The community reacted with grief and frustration. Social media filled with comments from people who saw in Asia's story a tragedy that felt all too familiar. Adults settling disputes in parking lots like teenagers, while children at home wait for parents who aren't coming back. Memorials were shared online. Her face circulated alongside tributes from people who had never met her, but felt the weight of what her death meant. Asia Stewart was 26 years old. She had 4 children, a work ethic that most people twice her age would envy, and a heart that kept showing up for the people she loved, even when logic said to stay home. That heart is gone now, and the parking lot at Wesley Square is just a parking lot again. Asia Stewart walked into that parking lot trying to be what her father raised her to be, a peacemaker. She believed that talking it out was always stronger than tearing each other down. She believed in family. She believed that showing up for the people you love, no matter how tired you are, no matter how late it is what separates the people who care from the people who don't. She was right, and it cost her everything. For her 4 children, for her father Carlton, for everyone who loved Asia Stewart, the parking lot may go quiet, but the loss never will. Rest in peace, Asia. You deserve to make it home. Thank you for watching Real True Crime 24/7. If you found this case interesting, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more real true crime stories just like this. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new case. Thanks again for watching Real True Crime 24/7.